Hey guys, welcome to this week's track guide. This time we'll be showing you the Watkins Glen International Circuit in the BMW GTP car. So starting your lap, you'll be coming out of the last corner on the far left hand side, which is basically where you want to stay for preparation for turn 1. So you go with the start finish line, sorry, you go with the start finish line, keep it on the left hand side, get most of the overtaking done here in traffic, or get most of the overtaking done here in an efficient manner. And but be sure that if you can help it, be back on the left hand side in time for turn 1, which is a downhill braking zone into a 90-degree right-hander, which at full speed looks something like this. So when approaching turn 1, you're basically looking out on the left-hand side, just above the guardrail. There's these unit boards, and basically right around the 300 board, that's when you want to transition from throttle to brake, or you can also look at this slight kink in the road or a slight kink in the surface. And that's basically when you want to start braking. And also be mindful that since it's going downhill, you need to account for a bit more margin when going onto the brakes. So overcooking it on the brakes here will just prolong the braking since it's going downhill. And yeah, you go up to maximum brake pressure while traveling in a straight line. And right around when you pass the 100 meter board or the 100 board, that's when you start releasing the brakes and shift into the turning in phase of the corner and keep some brakes on, but obviously the more you turn the wheel, the more you need to get off the brakes in order to not overstress the tires. And you go down to third gear and try to graze this curb on the inside, just around this first part. Like your right hand side wheels shouldn't be, they should just about be grazing this this second part of the curb. And yeah, that's also where you will have the most grip available. So be mindful that right around this, right as the incline changes to a climb again, and where the camber is the strongest, that's when you will have the car be ready to just hook the wheel, just grab the corner, grab the grip, and that's when you can also. That's why you can also be quite aggressive on throttle here, initially anyway. But if you overdo it on throttle right through this exit, you will more often than not find that the car will snap away. So be mindful that, as previously mentioned, right around the apex of turn 1, that's when you will have the most grip because it's cambered the most and the incline shifts to a climb again and whatnot. But the further you go along into the exit, the more the incline and the camber falls away again. So you will run out of grip, and especially when transitioning over this curb right here, that's when any sort of imbalance you may have created by going on throttle too early beforehand will just be more exaggerated. So try to get onto this curb in as much of a straight line as possible without any under or oversteer. And yeah, you can make quite a good use of this outside part right here, but only as long as your right hand side wheel touches the curb still. So be mindful that you need to keep at least a little bit of your right hand side tires on the curb in order to avoid an off track. And yeah, thereafter you want to make sure that you prepare the car for this uphill section, which it's basically just a flat out right left right section, but on cold tires, especially on the outlap and maybe even lap 1, be mindful that you need to be going through there about 70-80% total maximum and just feel the car out. And yeah, after the flat out section, you bring the car back over towards the left hand side in preparation for, most people call it bus stop. I'm not actually sure what the name is, but it's a really quick right, left, right, chicane, which requires a lot of commitment and a lot of precision. But I'm just gonna show it at full speed. So as you've just seen me approach this corner on pretty good commitment. The first thing you want to be looking out for is this white line on the track. Alternatively, easy or more more visible from further back is this end of the guardrail marking on the left, right around the 300 board. That's when the guardrail has this sort of orange marker on it. And basically, somewhere between these two, that's when you want to transition from throttle to brake. It will be a pretty sharp braking input because you're not really slowing down a lot. You're braking and immediately turning in the car, and obviously you want to make this entire section as much of a straight line as possible, which also by default means that you want to be going up right up close to this guardrail on the inside, like as close as you possibly can in order to open up the corner. Like there is even a bit more margin there, to be fair. There's like 2 to 3 centimeters more in that, I think, or yeah, actually more. There's about, yeah, let's say about 10 centimeters more in that. And yeah, you obviously want to get up right up close to the guardrail in order to open up the upcoming section as well. And also be mindful that going over this curb will have quite there's quite a violent momentum there. But ever since the car have slowed down quite a bit from 2 seasons ago to last season, I think the curb usage here has been a bit easier to handle because the car isn't traveling in as much at such high rates of speeds anymore. So you can make good use of the curbs now these days, I would say, without having to fear the car darting off to left or right uncontrollably. If the car gets unsettled at these sort of lower speeds, you have a bit more time to catch it, rather than going a million miles an hour and the car stepping out all of a sudden. So you can make good use of all the curbs through this section. Like the first one, you want to make full use of it as much as possible, right up to the guardrail. That's when you shift into the left-hander, which you can also take quite aggressively. But be mindful that this extra bit of tarmac right after the curb is more or less where you want to be ending up at maximum with your left-hand side wheels. Like right around here, your inside wheels shouldn't really be any further to the left from the driver's point of view than this extra strip of tarmac allows you to. So yeah, all this time, you'll see my inputs here. I'm keeping a little bit of brake pressure on, especially when the car is traveling straight briefly, in order to just keep the front loaded. Like give me as much front as or I want the car to give me as much front as it can in order to be able to maneuver it efficiently through this section, because you will need the front end to bite in time by the time you want to get back onto the throttle between the two left-handers. And right around here, when the car sort of hooks and grips up, you will feel it right between this second and third curb. That's when you can start going on throttle again. And also be sure that you want to, yeah, if you can help it, try and make as much use of this curb as possible, but also be mindful that this one is probably the most aggressive out of them all. So if you start approaching this curb, be mindful that yeah, be prepared to have a brief lift maybe, because if you travel over it, if you travel over it at the wrong angle with a bit too much speed, it can lift the front of the car up into the air, and which robs you of any steering, which then means you're just going straight into the grass, and in worst cases, even the wall sometimes. So yeah, be sure that you want to keep a bit of margin there, but try to feel your way around this curb and see how much you can get away with. And this last one, I think is a bit of a peculiar one, and if you're feeling risky, you can get right up close to the grass with your right-hand side wheels, sometimes even slightly touching it like I'm doing here. Because this sort of path the further you go to the right over this curb, the smoother the curb will be. Like if you travel it sort of half-heartedly, that's when the curb will most likely unsettle your car. But when you go over it, the further to the right you go over it, the more the car will stay settled, or the more likely it is that the car will stay settled. And yeah, right after this section, there is a long right-hander coming up, which yeah, I'm just gonna show you at full speed. So right as you exit this sort of chicane section, that's when you are basically immediately starting to prepare this long right-hander. It all starts really when going over this curb. Like as you go over this curb, I've mentioned that you want to be going over it as far to the right as possible, and that sort of extends all the way into the entry phase of I think it's turn 6 actually, or turn 5 rather. That's going over this curb sort of extends all the way through the entry phase and the actually into the apex of turn 5 as well. So you want to be coming out at most at right around the middle of the track, I would say, because these cars are not really able to carry the speed anymore since they've lost a lot of downforce. So taking a big swing in order to open up the momentum and open up the angle doesn't really help you anymore, because you're basically limited by cornering speeds anyway. So if you're going to be limited by corner speeds, you want to be saving distance as much as possible. And also, the further to the right you stay here on entry, the more grip you will have most likely, because the further you run out on the entry and also through this turning in phase, that the more or the less grip you will find yourself having. So you'd want to, yeah, basically hook the inside as much as you can pretty early on. Like even this right here is maybe a bit too far to the left. But yeah, as previously mentioned, the further you go to the inside, the more grip you will have readily available. But obviously you need to leave a little bit of margin in order to not be right up close to the apex at the wrong angle when you eventually get to the apex. So yeah, right around here, this is more or less the angle you want to be having right before you go on throttle. Be slightly away from the right hand side or the far left hand be slightly to the left of the far right hand edge in the middle of turn 5, or right as you get to the apex of turn 5, in order to still have some room to turn the car to the right on throttle still, and make sure that you stay as tight as you can all the way through, and eventually you start drifting out wide. But also be mindful that same as it's a pretty similar situation to the entry of turn 5. If you find yourself having to run out wide all the way to the outside here, that means most likely you're overstressing the tires, because you will not really find yourself gaining a sort of massive amounts of lap time on the delta compared to a controlled sort of inside-ish, not too far out wide approach. If you find yourself going on throttle too early and running right up close to the guardrail, that just means you've overstressed the tires. You're forcing the car to carry more speed than it is capable to carry. Yeah, make sure that right through here you want to apply the throttle in a gradual manner. Like you will see me getting ever closer to the limit, but not really 100% immediately. Like this sort of final bit of feeding in the throttle is pretty important through here in order to not overstress the fronts, and by extension the rears eventually as well, when the car starts wearing out its tires on both axles. So yeah, coming out of turn 5 you will be on the far left hand side, but you want to bring it back over towards the right for turn 6, and yeah, turn 6 at full speed looks like this. So when coming out of turn 5, as I previously mentioned, you want to bring the car back over towards the right for turn 6, and you will, if you can realign it with the right hand edge of the track right before you get onto the brakes, that would be even better. But most likely you will be in a situation like this where you have to go onto the brakes while still pointing the car away from the corner and not being right up close to the right hand side. So yeah, if you find yourself in that situation, or yeah, most likely you will find yourself in that situation. So you want to be braking a little bit earlier, feeding in the brakes more gradually than you would when traveling in a straight line, because you still need to turn the car to the left slightly pretty soon after you start to brake. So yeah, in terms of braking point itself, I don't really like, my reference point would be this sort of drainage with the tarmac here, and pretty, yeah, as soon as it sort of starts rendering, basically, like right around here is where I start to brake. Like you can use this tree actually. I'm just seeing that for myself. Yeah, as soon as this tree starts going out of view, that's when you start to brake. But in terms of meters, I would say I'm braking about, yeah, what's this? Like maybe 40 meters before this drainage part on the right. That's when I start to brake. But more importantly, rather than the braking point, is really that you want to be slowing down the car to a point where the front doesn't get overloaded anymore, especially through this corner, because once again, it's pretty similar to turn 1 in terms of the braking. It's going downhill, and you need to do a lot of things at the same time. So you'll be braking, trying to get the car slowed down in a straight line as much as possible. And right as you start passing this drainage right here, by this point you should have slowed down the car to a point where it is maneuverable on the brakes. And yeah, right as you pass this drainage on the right, you start to feather off the brake slightly, but still keep some brake pressure on, and turn the car to the corner. And you will see also that the curb here is slightly cambered away from the corner, and the tarmac is cambered towards the corner, or towards the inside rather. So touching this curb used to be quite a viable thing to do, but these days I don't think really it helps in any way, because as you can see here, it is cambered away quite strongly, and the tarmac is cambered towards the corner. So obviously the part that is cambered towards the inside helps you turn the car a lot more than anything that is pointed the opposite way. So yeah, you want to stay off the curb as much as much as possible, but get right up close to it in order to open up the corner as much as possible. And yeah, at this point, you're eventually going back onto the throttle again, and in this instance, it's quite a peculiar balancing act, I would say, because on throttle here, the car is prone to snapping away, but also it is prone to understeer. So you will have to find your sweet spot in terms of obviously slowing down the car to a point where the front is still somewhat manageable helps. But also be sure that when feeding in the throttle through here, you can be quite aggressive because you still have some camber to help you out, but don't go on throttle to 100% immediately. Like, leave this little bit of margin here in order to feel the car out on throttle. Make sure that it's not prone to snapping or it's not starting to understeer. You want to be carrying a very neutral balance through here all the way to the exit, and if you can help it, right up close to the curb right here. You will see me touch the curb slightly, but depending on your suspension setup and depending also on the point of the run, like on full fuel, this curb will take away a bit more momentum than on lighter fuel, for example. And yeah, if you can help it, try and graze the curb, but don't really go onto the second part of the curb, because between this first curb and the second curb, there is a bit of a gap here, which will cause your car to bottom out and have quite a big bump there. So yeah, if you can help it, try and stay off the second part of the curb. And yeah, that's turn 6 for you. And try to bring the car back towards the left for turn 7, which at full speed looks like this. So once again, you will find yourself having to maneuver the car back towards the left for turn 7. And yeah, you will have quite a bit of time here to realign it properly with the left-hand side. So yeah, by the time you get to the 200 board, you should be fully realigned with the left-hand side. And you can see also that this corner sort of looks like a roller coaster right here. So it's going uphill. There's a lot of camber to help you out, so you can really attack the braking zone quite a lot here. So you will see me brake quite late at the 200 yard or whatever it is board, and it's pretty much turning right thereafter at the 100 board, and you can start releasing the brakes pretty early on, because right around here you will feel the climb and the incline of the corner really slowing the car down even more and helping you with the turn in. But be sure to still not be too aggressive, because eventually the camber and everything will run out again, same as turn 1. So yeah, you can get most of the aggressive slowing the down part done right around here. Like right around here when you start turning, and also technical difficulties, stand by. I think we were right around here. Yeah, right as you shift into this climbing phase of the corner, that's when the car has a lot of grip available, so you want to be sure that you make the most use of it when going over it. And yeah, in terms of the line through here, I think yeah, there's multiple different approaches, but I think this sort of semi-tight one, which you will see me take right around here, I think is probably the best of, or is a pretty decent compromise of all available lines, because also eventually you will see quite a lot of marble build up right around the outside here, which is pretty close to the ideal racing line. So when negotiating traffic, this is one of the first spots that is quite deceiving, or it sort of invites you to go around the outside of a GT3 or a bunch of GT3s even. But be mindful that right around here, around an hour or two into the race, there will be a lot of marbles right around here. So you will go to the outside here and basically just run out of grip, and in the worst case scenario, even go off the track slightly. So yeah, be sure that through this corner you want to stay as far to the inside as possible. And right around here, that's when you start going onto the throttle again. And same as turn 6, it is a bit of a balancing act. You can be quite aggressive on throttle still, because the incline is, or the corner is sort of in a climb, and there's a lot of camber as well, which will eventually run out as previously mentioned, but still you can be quite aggressive. But also you want to be sure that you don't carry any sort of under or oversteer, so just leave this little bit of margin on the throttle still while you feel the car out on throttle. And right around here is when I get back to full throttle eventually, and even then you will see me having to correct slightly, because the rear still wants to go and get away from me. And yeah, but be sure that you carry an efficient amount of momentum on the throttle when going through the exit of turn 7. So right thereafter, you will find yourself in a bit of a climb, but you want to stay on the left hand side for turn 8, which once again has these useful markers on the left. And yeah, once again, I'm gonna show it at full speed for once. So once again, you're looking out for the left-hand side, and this time, once again, look out for the 200 board, but you want to be braking around 15 to 20 meters before that. And because this corner, you will approach this corner with a bit more, like around 15 kph more than the previous one, where you also brake at a 200 board, which is why you want to brake a bit earlier. And you will, once again, get most of the slowing down part done in a straight line, and right around the 100 board, that's when you start to release the brakes and turn the car into the apex. And pretty similar to turn 6, this curb right around the apex here used to be quite useful when turning the car or just grazing it to get the car rotated, but ever since they made it quite aggressive and obviously cambered away from the corner, it doesn't really help you anymore. So you want to be getting right up close to it, but not really touching it, because it will just push the car out wide and make you fall off the curb immediately, basically, which will then, yeah, make you run out wide when you don't want to. And yeah, once again, on throttle here, it's pretty important that you leave a bit of margin on throttle here. Like, there's once again quite a bit of or quite a lot of grip on throttle, but it's also deceivingly easy to be too aggressive on throttle here once again. So you want to leave a bit of margin once again on the throttle where you feel the car out and get it or balance the car through the exit of the corner on throttle, basically. And in terms of line through here, there is a lot of space available on the outside, but be mindful that this sort of bit of grass right here can catch you out quite quickly in terms of an off track. So you want to be going over this sort of corner of the grass. Yeah, with the middle part of your car should not be on this sort of corner between runoff, tarmac, and grass. So you should be going over to the right hand side from a driver's point of view with the middle part of your car. So yeah, once again, yeah, don't really have a lot of time to bring the car back over towards the right for turn 9, but I'm just gonna show it at full speed. So exiting turn 8, as I've said, you want to bring the car back over towards the right immediately, and same as turn 6, you will most likely not really find yourself in an ideal situation where the car is realigned perfectly with the right hand side before you go onto the brakes. So the car, by the time you get onto the brakes, it is still pointed away from the corner slightly. So in this instance, even though the corner is going uphill, and it is quite easy to think that that gives you more grip on the brakes, you still need to be really conservative through here on the brakes, because first of all, this uphill part isn't really very long, considering the distance of the braking zone, and you're basically right as you start approaching the inside of the corner or the inside edge of the track, that's when the track starts falling away, or it becomes even right around here. Right around here, and when going through here, there is a bit of a fall off as well. So you want to obviously hug the inside as long as possible in order to save the most amount of distance. But all the time you're braking through here, you're sort of feeding the car towards the inside of the corner. Like, you will see me have around 10% brake pressure on basically all the way through here. And you can get on throttle right around here pretty much immediately after going off the brakes. But once again, be mindful that you want to not overload the rears, and especially in this instance, because there is little to no camber to help you out here through the exit. So you want to be all the more careful in this instance compared to previous corners. And once again, or not once again, but you want to try and stay to the inside as long as possible, because right around here you will see the track on the inside here. There is the best amount of grip right here. So if you can help it, try to exit the corner through this trajectory. I've done it a bit too aggressively here, trying to run out wide and get on throttle as early as possible. But yeah, whatever you do, try to not get any snaps on throttle here. And be mindful that also this curb on the outside here, you can graze it sort of with your right hand side. But if you go over too aggressively, it will cost you a lot of momentum in the best of cases, and in the worst of cases it will also unsettle the car and cause it to oversteer and just, yeah, causing you to lift off the throttle once again, which you don't really need when exiting a slow corner like this. So yeah, we're coming up to the end of the lap now. The final two corners look something like this. So these two corners right here have become a lot more tricky ever since ever since the GTP has lost a lot of downforce, because this first one used to be just a flat-out left-hander. It used to be basically an inconvenience. Nowadays it's a lot more tricky, and there's a lot more nuance to it, I would say. This is a pretty this is an early lap in a stint, so the car is pretty loaded with fuel, and it is still not ideal, and not the tires are not in the ideal temperature range yet. So you will see me fight the car pretty heavily into the corner. But the further you go into the stint, the more you will be able to just lift off the throttle, or sometime in some cars even carry a little bit of throttle through the entire corner. But in this instance, I had to brake a little bit. I want to obviously make use of the right-hand side as much as possible, and right between or right after passing the 200 board on the right, that's when I start turning in. And also, in order to help the front out a little bit after turning in, I raise the brakes slightly, like go on about 5% brake pressure, which allows me to just feed the car in more efficiently, and helps the tires also, because they don't have to turn and slow the car down at the same time. If I help the car out with the brakes, I take away the slowing down part from the tires and let it do it with the brakes basically, which then leaves the tires with a bit more margin in order to turn the car, if that makes sense. So yeah, you will see me graze the brakes slightly or drag the brakes slightly all the way into here, and basically this right around the apex. Obviously you want to be going back onto the throttle once again, and yeah, make sure to not run out too wide, because the further you run out, the more difficult it will be to get it back, not just in terms of line, but also in terms of the curb right here, because the further to the right of this curb, or the further you go on the further to the right you go, and when going onto this curb, the more bottoming out there will be, which will lose you momentum, and which will also cause the car to lose a bit of steering, which will, as previously mentioned, make it a bit more difficult to get it back over towards the right. So this is right around I think this would be sort of ideal in terms of curb usage. You want to bring it back over towards the left, and this is a pretty extreme example. Like, right as you go onto the brakes here, basically when approaching the end of the tire wall on the left, you're pointing the car, the car is pointed ways away from the final corner. So this is a pretty good example, or this is a pretty extreme example of leaving a lot of margin on the brakes when turning the car, or when braking and turning the car, because you need to be doing a lot more rotation than you would ideally want for this corner itself. But since it's two combined corners, you need to account for that entry sort of additional turning to the right as well when going onto the brakes. So yeah, as previously mentioned, you want to be going onto the brakes pretty early on and leave a lot of margin, like at maximum be braking at around 50 to 55%, I would say. And yeah, turn the car into the final corner. And also be sure that you slow down the car to a point where it is ready to take some punishment once again, because if you try to force the car to carry the speed, and especially on a hot track like we will have this week, the car will just not respond to your inputs when you try to force it to go through this corner just way too quickly. So be sure that you slow down the car to a point where it is ready to take some punishment once again. Try to get it pointed towards the inside. If you can help it, try to avoid the curb on the inside, because once again it is cambered away from the corner and it will just push the car out wide through the apex. And yeah, try to once again balance the car on throttle once again. Like, don't immediately go to 100% throttle, like only when you're approaching the sort of end of the corner right around here. That basically, this is the point. Like, this is the point where I'm finally going to 100% throttle, and we're pretty close to the end of the corner, you will see. So yeah, and obviously once again try to get right up close to the wall and exit in order to open up the corner as much as possible, carry the most amount of momentum, but be sure to not go into the wall, obviously. And yeah, get your upshifts right, back over towards the start finish line, and where we started out this guide. And yeah, that is one lap of the Watkins Glen International Circuit. So that was one lap of the Watkins Glen International Circuit for this week of IMSA Racing, and also this week will be the week of the 6-hour Watkins Glen iRacing special event. So I hope I could give you some helpful tips before you prepare yourself for the race, and yeah, I'll see you guys next week.